turning on your world.
Thank you so much for joining us once again on this 20th day of April 2023. It's just 1 minute past 6 a.m. and you're watching AM Live. My name is Zainab Ismail. We have all the stories making headlines this hour. We'll be having a look at also what's on the dailies this morning, but our conversation will be centered on the talks expected to begin. Yes, just yesterday there was a deal that was struck between the Kenya Kwanza Coalition and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party on how to go about the talks. They will be having a meeting today, not inside Parliament, outside Parliament in a hotel, just what they termed as a familiarization conversation. So we'll be trying to understand and make sense of where we are. Are we on the right track with regards to these bipartisan talks that have been quite not steady? So that's what we'll be engaging our members of parliament this morning on, but that is just in a moment. So what we're going to do is take a look at some of the other stories that we have. And 2 bodies have been recovered and 13 people rescued in Shakahola Forest in the county of Kilifi. These are the victims of the religious cult who have been fasting for several days deep in the forest. Some of those found are alive or in critical condition, while police officers are fearing that the number of both the dead and those still alive could rise. Antivist Kevin Mutai also reports that the operation is facing serious challenges, including manpower and resources to evacuate the followers of the controversial doctrine.
She is one of the first lucky people discovered alive, lying helpless inside a thicket while counting her last days. Her helpless voice attracted detectives carrying out an operation in the area, her condition being critical at the moment she was being evacuated to hospital. 13 more people were also rescued in different areas, weak and emaciated. Some even begging for water to calm their hunger pangs. They have been fasting here for several days now, with some surprisingly even requesting police to allow them conclude their last 4 days of starving. Two bodies were also recovered here and processed for identification by homicide detectives before they were transferred to the morgue awaiting an autopsy.
Nyumbani wapi? Kisumu wapi? Wewe. Kisumu wapi? Kisumu wapi?
These are some of the alleged followers of a controversial religious doctrine and are said to have been in the company of their children for fasting, who are suspected to have died and their bodies disposed.
Hupa kunaitwa Jangwani. Kwa hiyo jina kubwa ambalo la kifahari linaitwa Jangwani, waje wakae hapa wamngojee Yesu, walime mahindi na wabarikiwe na wawe watakuwa na chakula. Lakini sitofahamu ya kwamba imefikia mahali mpaka sasa watoto wanakufa na watu wazima wanakufa, na ni kwamba wamepatiwa amri ya kwamba wafunge hadi wafe.
Detectives had to suspend mapping of the suspected mass graves and embark on a rescue mission after reports emerged that more followers of Pastor Paul Mackenzie are still in the forest undertaking the deadly fast. Some of the villages identified so far include Bethlehem, Galilee, with Jerusalem, where Mackenzie's homestead is, being the largest with the highest number of followers.
Hili ndio maeneo ambayo Mackenzie anaishi na ndio alileta wale washirika ama wale wafuasi ambao walikuwa wanamfuata.
Namsaka msichana wa dadangu ametoweka, alijiunga na kanisa ya Mackenzie, na kwa leo ni siku ya 5 tumefanikiwa kuja mahali walikuwa wamecamp kama maeneo yao.
15 suspected grave sites were mapped for exhumation, some looking freshly dug with loose soils. detectives reveal that items of the deceased have been destroyed to conceal the evidence.
Makenzi aliunda vikosi kama vikosi viwili hivi. Kikosi cha kwanza ni cha mazishi, yule ambaye atakuwa amelemelewa kifo azikwe, na kikosi kingine cha security ambayo inagadi kwa huu msitu ili mtu yote atakayeingia mahali hapa waweze kumalizana na yeye.
Shakahola lies inside the Chakama forest, officers having a difficult time to maneuver the thickets with lack of both manpower and resources to evacuate both the dead and survivors of the cult. A manhunt has also been launched for a group of locals responsible for burying the dead and watching over the fasting exercise. The operation to map out suspected grave sites in the vast Chakama forest is expected to continue tomorrow, with the officers fearing that the numbers of those might have perished in this fasting cult could increase. Kevin Mutai, NTV in Kilifi County.
An Azimio town hall meeting in Murang'a will continue as planned despite the police declining to grant permission for it. Mwangi Wairia, who is planning and playing host to the Azimio team, insists the meeting will go on as scheduled whether the police like it or not. Wairia, the Usawa party leader who met with the police on Tuesday, says he went to Murang'a police station to notify them to provide security, not to seek permission or permit to assemble. Wairia says they will not be cowed after the said town hall meeting set for this Thursday was cancelled by Murang'a County Police Commander David Matthew, who is said to have insisted that the police had been deployed elsewhere and that they needed ample notification time in order to prepare. Wairia says Azimio coalition leaders led by Raila Amolo Odinga, Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka, among other Azimio leaders, had confirmed attendance for the inaugural Mount Kenya town hall meetings in Murang'a County.
Wanatuambia ati kesho hatutafanya mkutano kwa sababu hawana askari wa kutosha. Hao ni wamelogwa ama nini? Nani amewaitisha askari? Sisi tunataka kufanya mkutano bila askari kwa sababu hata sisi mikutano ya askari hatuendagi. Kwa nini wanataka kuja kwa mkutano wetu? Kwani wao askari wakikutana wanatuitanga? Kwa nini wanakuja mkutano wetu? Watu wafanye mkutano yao. Sisi hatutaki askari na tumefurahia wamesema hawako. Hebu tuone kama sasa watakuweko kesho. Kwa sababu walikuwa wanazuia mkutano ati hawatakuweko, wana shughuli zingine. Hiyo shughuli waendelee.
And now to matters health. 2 people have died and 9 others admitted in various hospitals in Kisumu following the outbreak of cholera. This as Uasin Gishu County officials called on the residents not to panic, assuring them that the disease had been contained, even as they enhanced surveillance in different areas where cases of diarrhea have also been reported. Our reporter Gabriel Kodaka has the details.
The outbreak of cholera continues to be felt in different parts of the country, with 2 people having succumbed to the disease this morning in Kisumu County. Confirming the deaths, Kisumu County Director for Public Health Services Liliana Dayo said the deceased had been referred to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital while in a critical condition. Meanwhile, in Langas Estate in Eldoret, fear is rife following the suspected cases of cholera.
Hii mtaro wa Langas ni chafu sana. Simbona watu wa Eldoret municipality waose Langas. Hiyo ndio swali ya kwanza.
Hata tuliporipoti ya kwamba kumekuwa na waadhiriwa kadhaa ambao wanaendesha, wanatapika na hali ya mazingira na sanitation haikuwa safi, hawakuona kana kwamba inaweza kuwa ni jambo serious.
However, Uasin Gishu County Director of Public Health Services Dr. Evans Kiprotich says only 4 cases had been confirmed by March 20th, adding that the situation has since been contained. According to Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital CEO Dr. Wilson Arwasa, 15 patients were treated at the facility and discharged in a stable condition. He added that some had been referred to the facility from different counties.
Japo ilikuwa imetangazwa hali kidogo ya hatari, lakini kwa ushirikiano wa taasisi zote walipokuja pamoja waliweza kudhibiti hali hiyo kwa haraka sana na haikusambaa tena.
Meanwhile, the County Department of Health Services has enhanced surveillance in Langas, Huruma and Pioneer areas for any suspected cases of cholera, even as 6 patients with cases of diarrhea were admitted at Kimalel and Langas health centers Wednesday morning. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV.
Now, Roads and Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has announced guidelines to be met by school and public service providers when transporting school children. This is in a bid to curb the increased road accidents witnessed in recent days, the latest one claiming the lives of 5 students in Naivasha. And as Rukia Bule reports, parents of the deceased learners have called for government support in burial plans.
5 students lost their lives on Tuesday, April 18, in a gruesome accident in Delamere, Naivasha. And now, reports have emerged that the students from Bihi Secondary School in Vihiga County had complained about speeding by their driver before the ill-fated vehicle crashed. Their parents were in Naivasha Wednesday to identify the bodies.
Kuwe na uangalifu kwa barabara, hasa wakati ambapo umebeba watoto. Kupoteza watoto katika umri huu ambao ndio tegemeo letu la kesho ni uchungu, ni pigo kwa shule.
Wale ambao wanaweza kutusaidia tuweze kufikisha miili za hao watoto ili wakaweze kupewa mazishi.
Reacting to the accident, Road and Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has announced new measures to curb increased road crashes in the country.
School transportation shall not be allowed to operate between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. in line with Traffic Amendment Act 2017, Mr. Speaker, effective immediately. Mr. Speaker, all school children must be allocated seats with functional seat belts put on at all time. And we should not ignore to say you are small-bodied, you can be carried, squeezed in a matatu. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, school vans, buses and matatus that are unroadworthy must be removed from the roads with immediate effect.
The road CS further gave measures on other vehicles on the road to ensure public service vehicles operate with functional speed limiters, with a clinic to confirm the same set from next week. And road agencies to ensure cameras have been installed at all black spots. Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Mashogu, in a statement, sent his condolences to the families of the deceased learners, stating that the ministry will ensure that the best free medical treatment is offered to the hospitalized students under the Edu Afya Health Insurance Scheme. Rukia Bule, NTV.
And while the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers is calling out the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education for slacking on their public health mandate following the death of 3 students and a teacher at Sacred Heart's Mukumu Girls High School. On their part, they are condemning the forceful retirement of the Sacred Heart's Mukumu Girls High School principal Frida Ndolo and restructuring of the school's board. On their part, members of parliament want stern action taken against the bodies found culpable, even as the Directorate of Public Health has now been put on the spot.
The death of 3 students and a teacher at Sacred Heart Mukumu Girls High School continues to cause outrage, as stakeholders are now demanding answers and speedy inquiries into the matter. Despite the Ministry of Health indicating that the cause of death in the institution was caused by a neurotoxigenic E. coli and Salmonella typhi, they have put the Directorate of Public Health to task, accusing them of sleeping on their job.
Our team observed that the water that is being used in the school is stored in an underground tank, close to which runs a sewer line. The possibility of sewer contaminating water in the tank due to the sewer seepage is very high.
On their part, Parliament is also calling for speedy investigations, with members of Parliament accusing the ministries for neglecting school environments.
It's very sad when the government and the Ministry of Health doesn't come out clear and address the issues that are affecting our children in schools.
That secondaries have over-enrolled, causing congestion. A school like Mukumu Girls, which should be hosting 1,000 students, is now hosting more than 2,000 students. So there is congestion in classrooms, congestion in dormitories, congestion in the use of all the facilities. And then secondly, Mr. Speaker, with this expansion, water management has not improved. You find that most schools use boreholes, and these boreholes, the water is not treated.
Butere boys had also reported cases of contamination, which saw students also hospitalized.
Punishing Madam Dolo only serves to undermine efforts to find lasting solutions to the problem over which she had no control. And regrettably, her forcible retirement fits in a pattern where our hard-working principals are used as sacrificial lamb to assuage public anger.
Kupet is now calling upon the Ministries of Education and Health to account for their responsibilities under the Kenya School Health Policy of 2018. Helen Aura, NTV.
All right, thanks, Helen, for that report. And it is time for us to just take a look at what exactly is making headlines in the dailies this morning. But I'm not alone in studio. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning. Honorable Godfrey Osotsi, Senator of Vihiga County. Thank you so much. And good to see you. We also do have Honorable Tabitha Mutinda, nominated Senator. Good to see you, and welcome to my show, because we've not had you before.
Thank you.
As well as Honorable Lady Okech, Karibu Sana, Senator Migori County. Good to see you. We'll also be joined shortly by Geoffrey Kiringaruku. That's the Member of Parliament from Mbeere North. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have Senator Hilary Sigei, but because of a meeting that is expected to attend this morning, he did send his apologies that he will not be making it for the show. But he will be replaced by the Member of Parliament from Mbeere North, who will be joining us shortly. But we'll begin here on the very front page of Daily Nation, and this is what they've captured on their front page. Cheap unga puzzle, where ugali lovers across the country will have to wait a little longer to enjoy the cheap maize flour that President William Ruto promised will hit retail shelves this week, days after his announcement. A spot check by Nation revealing that prices remain unchanged for most of the brands except for those of one miller. So where is the cheap unga? Let's see what they're saying in page 6 of that Daily Nation. And they did take a look at and a spot check on a number of areas across the country, including Nairobi, Kisumu, the western part, as well as, okay, so there you have it. So ugali lovers will have to wait longer. One of the reasons for the delay, the Nation says, is that retailers stuck with expensive stocks are reluctant to reduce prices unless they secure a commitment from the suppliers all right, let me get that. Let me just make sure my paper is right in the middle. All right, they want a commitment from the suppliers through credit notes on how they will be compensated. Retailers are also hesitant to restock, which could signal looming shortages until there is price stability. But the Nation has established that maize flour prices in supermarkets and shops have not dropped, despite President Ruto's assurance that a 2-kilo packet will retail at about 150 shillings this week. And they checked Nairobi, Nakuru, they all went to Western Region. Residents yet to begin enjoying the cheaper maize flour. They also went to, so you can get a number of areas there. Where else? I think in Cabernet, in Baringo as well, in the supermarkets, the prices still remains unchanged, with the commodity still trading at 210 shillings. Let me begin with you, Mheshimiwa Osotsi. So there's a lot happening here, a lot of anticipation that those prices would come down, but there's also a lot of dynamics that will play around those prices coming down, not necessarily meaning that there is, you know, no cheap unga in the country. What do you make of that?
Well, Zainab, you know, the price doesn't just reduce.
Right.
There's a lot that needs to be done for the price to change. You know, most of these retailers, they have stocks, which maybe they bought at a higher price.
Right.
So they have to exhaust the stocks they have before they get in new stock. So price change can't just happen in a day. You know, when I saw William Ruto saying that the price is going to reduce to 150, I was shocked, because even basic economics tells you that there are variables which have to be looked into before a price reduces. So we still are going to have a lot of challenges around the issue of the cost of ugali, because all the other variables that influence price change have not changed. We have also not seen any tangible policy from the government that can make the price of these commodities to change. For example, if the government had announced subsidies, then that would be a basis for the reduction of the price of unga. But on what basis are millers going to reduce the price of unga when there are no any change in policy? The price of economic inputs that go into pricing of unga are still unchanged. For example, issues to do with petroleum products that these millers use. There are issues to do with labor cost. There are issues to do with the transport cost and many, many other variables. They have not changed. So on what basis is the price just going to drop? And you can't tell us it's because of imports. Those imports, even if they are there, they have to be processed. They have, first of all, to be cleared from the port, and then the millers have to be distributed to the millers. So it is a process.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the prices of unga will not go down. Because I think what we've witnessed is in some areas actually, we've seen the price of unga go down by at least even 50 shillings. At one supermarket, only the prices of Ajab and Umi brands had dropped both by about 50 shillings. In informal settlements, however, Kenyans are still purchasing it at the same price. But you're saying there's a lot that still needs to be...
What I'm trying to say, is it sustainable really? Because you cannot say that the price of unga is going to go down because you have imported maize. How sustainable is it?
Okay, let's hear from...
So there must be a very tangible economic solution to this problem, and not just the issue of importation. And I must say that, you know, there has been some recklessness in dealing with this problem. You heard even Honorable Inturi talking about the plans to lease land in Zambia and plant maize and then ship it to Kenya. And then a few days ago you heard Zambia saying they have a shortfall. They are going to import maize. So why would you go and plant maize in Zambia in a country that needs the same commodity because of shortfall?
Okay, let's see.
And at the same time, you remember they also told us that they were going to put 10,000 hectares of land, Galana Kulalu, to plant maize. What happened to that? So you see this shifting in policies, and we have so many people talking about the same thing. Today you will hear Linturis talking, the next day you hear Rigathi talking, the next day you hear Ruto's talking. So who is saying what? There is a coordinated approach to all these matters. And as in Azimio we are saying that we are not going to engage in anything until the price of unga reduces to 100 shillings.
Okay, let's hear from Senator Tabitha on, you know, some of these things that have been said with regards to the lowering of the cost of living, but also the issue of the unga.
Thank you, Zainab. And let me start by appreciating the surveys that the media did in regards to looking at the different prices that are in the market. And it's good to appreciate that also it depends on the preference of every clientele. And hence, that's why we have unga retailing at 230, 190. And I'm happy to see also a brand retailing at 159. You know, at the end of the day, it's a choice depending on what preference that you prefer. But looking at the bigger number, which is the common mwananchi and where we are, definitely having unga retailing currently at 159. 7 months down the line when we came into this new government, where we came in and unga was retailing at around 250, 230. And now we have a brand retailing at 155, 159. It is a step. And I like it when Senator Ososi mentions and says, this thing is not instant. It requires time. It requires to look at the stocks that have been placed, because the all key factor in any commodity price is determined by the cost of production. And cost of production is just not only on the raw material, also on the production process. And I'm talking from a manufacturing experience, because many factors also contribute to the final price of the commodity. Yes, and where we are, we need to look at different factors of what is the cost that then gives us the final price, depending on the margin that every manufacturer will put. Mentioning the CS, we had him this week, yes, talking about bringing in all the manufacturers, being able to sit down and getting to agree on certain parameters as far as this pricing is concerned. But at the end of the day, we need to appreciate that at the end of the day, different products have different clientele, depending on the market share that the manufacturers target. Because there are those ones who use hostess, which always retails above 200 shillings. But depending on what any client needs. Also see, my colleague says that what have we put in place? And then they say that we're going to have these talks and still going to go to for maandamano so that this unga comes down. Then we ask, then why don't you bring what you have in terms of, these are the strategies to ensure, because this is the cost of production in this particular industry, the cost of electricity is this, the cost of labor is this, the cost of raw material 1, 2, 3 is this. How do we move from case example price X to price less X, negative
But they're
X,
saying those in government are the ones, the policy makers are the ones who understand. I mean, they hold the power to bring the strategies to effect.
Correct.
So then why would you give the opposition or the members of parliament within that side the mandate to say, okay, you because you're complaining, you tell us what we should do?
We are not just telling them to tell us what we are saying. We are encouraging them to come on table also with solutions that are based for the common mwananchi and not just for their own interest. When he says let the cost of unga just go to 100 shillings, then we ask how is that factual? Because we have the other cost in place. If it is possible, that is what they should be sharing, so as to show the willingness that this unga that we are really fighting for is not just for us, but for the common mwananchi genuinely. Because you have to put on table what are you offering. If today you come to me and say you have a challenge, then I'll ask, then what strategy do you have so as to sort your challenge? You have to give me a plan. Then I'll be able to tell you this plan is workable, this plan is not workable. But you cannot just start saying, then if you're not doing that, we are going to destroy this city, we are going to demolish, we are going to fight, we are going to go to kills. Is that the solution? Okay, let's hear from Senator Okech on this particular matter.
Thank you, Zainab, and it's a pleasure to be here. First of all, let me say good morning to our viewers, and grateful for this day that we have, that God has given us to actually deliberate about matters affecting our country. Zainab, you know, the problem of food prices in Kenya is basically an indictment to lack of vision and lack of direction of government. And this sometimes is a problem when populist politicians get to office without purpose. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the issue of food prices in the country today is actually an indictment of also the entire policy framework with which our country finds itself under this regime. Because the stabilization of food prices in the country is very, very important for the purposes of stabilizing the economy. If you can also stabilize food prices, then you can also you can't stabilize other prices in the economy, and then ultimately you can't stabilize the most important price index in the country, which is the interest rates that we have in the country. Now, the reason why countries choose to protect consumers on food prices so that you can be able to have food prices sometimes going below free market economy is because food is a very particular commodity, especially in low-income countries like Kenya, that defines other things. That is why you find that there are two ways to protect consumers in terms of food prices. One is just basically the basic commodities that are on our shelves, like unga, which we are now discussing, but the other one is agriculture. And even the most developed countries make a determination that they must feed their population. That is why, if you go to the United States today, agriculture is one of the most subsidized area of consumption. And then if you look at the most low-income areas in the US, they have what we call food vouchers and STEM programs that enable people to actually get the right nutrients that that they need.
But you have the government which clearly says that that's not the direction that they intend to take, that subsidies are not sustainable in this economy. You know, you're comparing it to the US, but it's a bit different here in Kenya as well, right? So they're saying subsidies are not, you know, something that is sustainable for how they intend to run their economy or this country's economy. And that's why they are choosing the path that they're choosing, you know, at this point. They're saying it's going to be tough, but in the long run, the food prices will go down and things will get better.
And this is what even classical economists would advise them. That is a wrong premise, because food is a particular item in the manufacturing sector that you can't say that you're not going to subsidize. It needs to be subsidized. The solution to food prices, especially unga in Kenya, as well as other agricultural inputs, the government has to be deliberate about subsidizing it. Just to give you an example, right now, the last financial year that we have in the country, that is 2019-2020, if you look at the entire manufacturing sector, right, the investment by government in the manufacturing sector in our country has been at the lowest. But you find that there has been high taxes to these manufacturing companies without government actually investing in agriculture. That's why we require always that government must actually deliberately put in our budget not less than 10% of its support to agriculture in its budget, so that you can be able to subsidize agriculture. And where we find ourselves today as a country, these prices want to go down until the government chooses to actually subsidize unga. And that is why Azimio is particular that for you to reduce this food prices present and make Kenyans start being stable in terms of being able to access food, is that you must subsidize this particular consumption.
And I think this is one of the main issues that will be considered, I want to believe, in the agenda, in the conversation that we're going to witness. Because of time, we're going to just jump through to some of the other stories that we have on the Daily Nation. Babu Owino has a case to answer over firearm misuse. That's a ruling by the court. The judge says adduced evidence warrants putting Member of Parliament on his defense. Remember, he's accused of shooting DJ Evolve on the night of the 17th of 2020. Let's move forward. Let's see what else we have. So this will be laying a basis for our conversation. So I don't want to get too deep into it. So I'm not even going to ask you to mention or make a comment on this. But very quickly, is that Azimio Kenya Kwanza teams lay groundwork for bipartisan talks. That's the teams allied to both President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga struck a last-minute deal yesterday to hold the inaugural meeting of the Bipartisan Joint Committee today at the Pan-Afric Hotel in Nairobi. Now, the two teams have settled on the venue as a neutral ground. The leadership will, however, first meet to resolve disputes on the composition of the committee, especially the inclusion of Azimio-affiliated Jubilee parties, Aden Kainan, as a representative of the ruling coalition, which the opposition has objected to, including a number of issues. We're going to have a discussion on that, which is also the fact that Kenya Kwanza insists that the bipartisan talks will only focus on the reconstitution of the selection panel that will pick members of the electoral body, while the Azimio team team says they want all the 4 issues that they had put forth to be addressed in these talks. That's what we're going to be talking about. Also, I'm ready to face ICC, Gachagua tells Raila. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua yesterday wading into the raging debate over the International Criminal Court, accusing leaders of the opposition of instigating his prosecution there for protecting President William Ruto. Gachagua, however, vowing to remain loyal to his boss, adding that he wasn't scared and was ready to present himself before the Hague-based court. He says, and I quote, "If you want to forward my name to ICC, you can do so. These Azimio people don't understand me. If my boss is in trouble, I'm equally in trouble. We are like Siamese twins. I have to watch his back." He said that. This is, follows what happened last week with Azimio leader Raila Odinga formally seeking the intervention of ICC through his lawyer Paul Mwangi over what they called killing and maiming of supporters during the protests that we saw during the mass protests. Senator Osotsi, why is this issue of ICC really, making, becoming such a big conversation right now? Is this the way that, the Azimio team intends to move forward?
Well, the issue of ICC comes in because, during the demonstrations which, from our end, they were peaceful. The police brutality, which clearly, and I want to thank the media, you are there to show the entire nation what was happening. We saw atrocities committed against the people of Kenya. We saw how journalists were beaten up, maimed, and some of them were even hospitalized. I know one of the journalists there in Kisumu who was beaten up, and even his ribs were broken. He was hospitalized in hospital for almost 2 weeks. We have seen even the killings of innocent Kenyans by the police. They were not killed by Azimio, they were killed by the police. So all this impunity, all these atrocities committed against the people of Kenya by the government which is supposed to protect lives, the government which is supposed to protect property, where else do you take them? You take them to ICC. So I think ICC factor in this country is very important, because ICC has played an important role of ensuring that impunity does not become the order of the day in this country. So when we say we are taking this matter to ICC, I think we are very serious, and the matters that we are talking about are matters which are within the mandate of ICC, which is to investigate genocide, to investigate crimes against humanity, destruction of property. When we talk about destruction of property, you saw how goons went to Kenyatta Farm and stole livestock, destroyed trees, destroyed property there, and the police could not take any action. So we are right to say that we will require the intervention of ICC, because peaceful demonstration, when Kenyans are peacefully demonstrating, why would the police come in and start shooting people? Why would the police come in and start beating media? And you see now the narrative that our colleagues on the Kenya Kwanza side is that demonstrations are violence.
Well, there's been this argument, is the Azimio team using the ICC factor, as a boogeyman in these conversations, just
No. The crimes have been committed. People have died. They have been shot by police. Where else do you go to? You go to the police, head of police, Mr. Kome. He's talking as if he's on the other side of the political divide. In fact, Kome should not be talking the way he's talking. He should be talking like a head of the police, which is supposed to be an independent arm of the government and not part of the executive.
Okay.
So we have valid reasons to take these matters before ICC, because we cannot allow a rogue police force to brutalize our people, to kill our people, and we don't do anything. So Azimio is very much right in saying that we will require the intervention of ICC. And when you hear Rigathi Gachagua talking, though he's saying he's not scared of ICC, I think he is scared of ICC.
We have to take a break, but Senator Tabitha, you want to respond to that?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Oh, I thought you said we were going
Yes,
to
yes,
break,
on the same issue, because, you know, all these things are happening, and of course Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president, made his remarks yesterday with regards to the issue of the ICC, and you know, you've heard what Senator says, that they are serious, that they will be heading to the ICC because atrocities were committed. And what do you make of it?
Let me say this, Zainab, that one, I do not agree with, you know, whereby we're losing lives in this country. Our Kenyans are very hardworking, and it's the last thing that through demonstrations that Azimio has actually brought and protecting themselves, that constitutionally there is freedom for demonstrations. But they forget to state that in that freedom of demonstration, nobody is allowed to destroy any property or to also injure any human life. It is against the law. And what they are bringing about, they are bringing all manner of threats, trying to threaten the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua with the ICC matters. This is someone who has been actually put in jail from Friday to Monday. This has been his trend in the last regime.
But it is within their mandate, their right. Within
It
their
is their
own
mandate,
right,
yes, their right to demonstrate. But they should also note that if these demonstrations were not in place, if they did not take place at the this last few weeks that happened, we will not be talking what we are talking today. They are now coming and trying to start attacking Koome. Koome is doing his job. The police are supposed to protect lives and property of Kenyans in this country. And when they took to the street and started demonstrations, the police did not just appear immediately. They gave them time. It is until that the goons that worked with them took the other corner and started destroying properties. What happened to the Mundi Mweusi in Kisumu when they just went and started opening the supermarket doors and started looting? Demonstrations even were not on that side, and in their demonstrations, maandamano. But this youth, we saw them. It was in broad daylight out there, people going to loot. Even this Uhuru thing that they are keeping on talking about. One, I do not agree on going to anybody's property, and it is wrong to go to anybody's property and start looting or start stealing in the name of demonstration. It is wrong. But you see, they are the ones who have come out. They have spoken to their people. What are they saying right now? As through the president 2 weeks ago welcomed their talks and said, "Come, my brother Raila Odinga, let us sit down. This is our country. Let us talk. What is the issue?" And through that, a 77 number was constituted as we speak. And the reason why Honorable Sige is not here is because he's putting it, you know, a bigger priority to go and sit down and be able to discuss on these matters bipartisan. But what have they said? They were in Kamukunji grounds on Sunday, saying what? Saying to our people that, listen, we are going to talk, but still we are going to go to for maandamano. Like, seriously, look at the things that they have also brought on table as far as these discussions are concerned. Is Unga priority in that list? Let them tell us. Is it a priority? It is not a priority.
But there are, one of the issues they intend to get addressed is the issue of the cost of living,
right? It is not the main agenda. The main agenda was Jirera 4.
I want you to hold on to that thought, because you're getting into that conversation, which we will be coming into, and then Eddie, I will get to you on that and get your remarks on the same as we wait for Member of Parliament to just walk into the studio as well. That's Nambera North MP in just a moment. So what we're going to do is take a very short break, and then when we come back, we will be sitting down to just take a look at some of these issues on the table and what way forward with regards to that meeting that is expected to happen today between the Kenya Kwanza team and the Azimio team of the 14-member committee that has been set up for the bipartisan talks. We're back. Stay with us.
God rewards faithfulness. And he's saying to Abraham, you have been faithful. You have walked the journey, you've stayed the course, and I will show myself faithful on your behalf. When we pray, we say, God, we are trusting you for breakthrough. We are waiting on you for breakthrough. But do you know what? Sometimes it is God who is waiting on you.
This is The Greatest Show. The London Marathon, 23rd April, live on NTV. Good morning, rise and shine. Thank you for being with us dark and early on the Morning Fix. My name is David Ayuke.
And I'm Mariam Bashar. This is where good music lives, and guaranteed your weekday mornings are never going to be the same again.
Wake up to the sound of David and Mariam on Nation FM.
Every single day, every single day.
They're your morning hosts with the most, bringing you the energy you need to start your day. Nation FM, where good music lives.
Let me see y'all. Dance.
On this week's episode,
I'm seeing something here that's called black seed. Now, you know, in my head, if you say black seed, Njaheza are also black seed.
we look at your best accessory, your skin.
The growing beauty industry, it's growing. The formulations are even better than what you get with the conventional skincare.
Skin deep, but we go deeper.
Skin is the largest organ. Anything that you put on your skin is getting absorbed directly and is circulating the whole body.
And we explore the audacity of soap.
Adding oil after making the soap is what we call superfatting the soap to make sure that it's more moisturizing and it lathers very well.
It's skincare that's good enough to eat.
You know, kids eat soap.
You should not eat soap. There's no soap that is safe for eating.
Even if it has black seed.
Absolutely.
On the best of organic solutions.
You're going to take your oxtail and then you're going to brown it.
All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching AM Live on NTV. I want us to have a look at a report that was filed yesterday by Melita Oletenges with regards to our conversation this morning in just a moment. But we also have this report that was featured on the Daily Nation. Uhuru Ally paid for 415 million for role in telecom sale. MPs were told. That's the former President Uhuru Kenyatta's ally, John Ngumi, who was yesterday at pains to justify the 3.07 million he was paid by Jamhuri Holdings for his role in advising the government's acquisition of Telkom Kenya Limited for 6.2 billion shillings. He said he deserved it. It's actually featured as well on the very front page of the Standard. He says, I was paid 400 million because I am smart. So that's the mystery surrounding the rushed $6 billion payment to a UK company by Treasury for the control of Telkom Kenya just days before last year's polls deepens as President Uhuru Kenyatta's ally John Gumi reveals that the venture capital firm was willing to take partial payments. That's one report. Also, just Jason, to that, matatus will be allowed back on expressway, says the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport, Kipchumba Murkomen. Remember, there was a 10-month ban on matatus on the same. And also another report here that's still on Murkomen, who's enforcing tough rules to curb road crashes. The Transport Cabinet Secretary tightening the noose on speeding vehicles to curb road accidents. He has also instructed all heavy commercial vehicles with at least a weight of 3,049 kilograms and above to be fitted with speed limiters, and also the government imposing night travel bans on school buses, barring school buses from operating between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. in a move aimed at curbing the recent spate of fatal road accidents that we have also witnessed. On the front page of Business Daily, that's what we have. Treasury cash data fails to reveal a broke government. State has blamed March salary delays on debt repayments. March revenues up by 84.2 billion as loan dues rose by 54.6 billion shillings. You can get the full report there on the Business Daily. And also on Taifa Leo, Uhuru kimya, Ruto akitikisa Jubilee. Wandani wa Rais William Ruto na wale wa Rais mstaafu Uhuru Kenyatta jana walipigania umiliki wa chama cha Jubilee, huku wakitofautiana kuhusu uamuzi wa koti. Habari kamili tunaipata katika kurasa wa pili, and we're going to talk about that. So let's have that report by Melita Oletenges with regards to the deadlock between the Azimio la Umoja coalition and Kenya Kwanza over the bipartisan talks, which has been resolved with both parties agreeing to meet this morning at the Pan-Africa Hotel in the morning hours to start talks to resolve that standoff between the two parties. The leadership is, however, expected to meet first to deliberate on the composition of the team, especially on the objection of the inclusion of Eldas MP Aidan Kainan, who was elected on a Jubilee ticket. Let's have that report and then we'll come back to our conversation.
The stalemate between the government and the Azimio la Umoja coalition on the start of the bipartisan talks seems to have been unlocked. Both parties have agreed to meet on neutral grounds outside Parliament, with a meeting scheduled to take place at the Sarova Pan-Afrique Thursday. This puts to rest earlier confusion on the parties holding parallel meetings in which the majority leader Kimani Ichung'wah had invited the House leadership and members of the Bipartisan Talks Committee for a meeting to kick off the talks through a parliamentary process at 11 a.m. While Rarieda MP Otiende Amolo, who is the co-chair representing Azimio, had written to members of the committee asking them to avail themselves for a meeting at Serena tomorrow. The two sides agreed on a neutral ground Wednesday to avert the push and pull, even as the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua insists that the process should be parliamentary.
Outside Parliament, because ulituomba tuzungumze, tukakubaliana na wewe, mazungumzo iko bunge. You now want to change goalposts. Anataka mambo ya kofi ya ndani. There is no problem in Kenya. Iko shida gani Kenya? Wewe ndio shida.
The meeting, however, shall be preceded by another meeting involving the leadership from both sides, which shall be centered on agreeing on the terms of reference, grounds of engagement and the timelines. The composition of the committees is expected to be discussed as the Azimio la Umoja leadership had disputed the appointment of Eldas MP Aidan Kainan inclusion in the Kenya Kwanza side, arguing that he was elected on a Jubilee ticket, which is an affiliate of Azimio la Umoja coalition. A draft motion by Kimani Ichung'wah had focused on the reconstitution of the IEBC, leaving out the audit of IEBC servers and addressing the high cost of living, as demanded by Azimio leader Raila Odinga. The Azimio la Umoja coalition continues to insist that the government should hold extra parliamentary discussions akin to the National Accord of 2008. Melita Oletenges, NTV.
There seemed to be a lot of uncertainty yesterday, but at least some light at the end of the tunnel with at least that deal struck between the two teams on how to go about this. Senator Okech, are we on the right track now, at least that today morning the 14-member committee will be sitting to discuss some of these issues? Of course, not formal talks yet, but are we on the right track?
You know, 2 weeks ago, Zainab, when Ruto asked for the stop of demonstrations, the understanding of the entire nation is that there was a reason as to why Azimio people went to demonstrate. And those reasons were four. Number one, there was the issue of high cost of living, of course embodied by, I don't know why.
Sorry, we'll get you. We'll get you some.
I'll need some water.
Yes.
So it was embodied by high cost of food prices as the biggest indicator for high cost of living. Number two was the issue of IBC, the reconstitution of IBC to the extent of basically forming the next commission that is going to be able to adjudicate over our next elections. Number three was the issue of the past election with regards to opening the servers. And number four was the issue of interference with political parties to the extent of killing multi-party democracy, which is a constitutional requirement. Now, for you to stop that mandamano, those four issues must be addressed. And why has it been difficult to move forward with these bipartisan talks? Is because of three issues. Number one is just the TORs, you know, the terms of reference that must then inform why people should not go to mandamano, which the TORs cannot emanate anywhere possibly in this, out of this world from those four issues that Azimio is agitating about. Because if it's a dispute that you want to be able to have dialogue and conversations about, then you must address the issues on the table. And one of the issues that's on the table, as I've enlisted, is the issue of interfering with democracy. Such that the second reason why these bipartisan talks are becoming very difficult to have is that the Kenya Kwanza side chooses to put in those talks MPs poached from the side of Azimio like Kainan. That just shows extremely bad faith. And then you want to limit conversations to one issue when you are the other side of the aisle has got issues with all these other four areas that you can't be able to ignore.
What is the problem of having Aidan Kainan, who really said, you know, he believes in whatever Kenya Kwanza, you know, aspires, or, you know, to be part of Kenya Kwanza, although he was indeed elected under the Jubilee ticket, which was under Azimio, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of issues within that Jubilee at this point, but he says, look, I believe in Kenya Kwanza, and I want to have these conversations on behalf of Kenya Kwanza. What would be such a big issue with that?
Zainab, I beg for just a different environment of your side to understand the grasp and the weight of what Azimio as a coalition is agitating about. These are fundamental constitutional issues. And the reason why this is very important as we go to these talks, we go to understand it, because if they are not addressed to the extent that we can be able to protect the Kenyan constitution, it will be a problem. The issue of food prices is actually enshrined in our constitution under Article 43 of the constitution, economic and social rights that we have in this country. You cannot touch that. The second issue around election, Article 86 of our constitution, if you go and read it, C and D, sub-article C and D, it's very clear how our elections are supposed to be run, to the extent that our election laws have come up, we have come up with three very distinct electoral laws. Number one is the Political Parties Act, which governs how political parties should play to be able to endorse Article 2 of the Article 4 of the Constitution. And then number two, we have got the Election Act 2011. Election Act 2011, if you go under subsection 44, it is very clear and it requires a proper audit of all our elections to the extent of opening things like the server, so that people are completely sure about an election according to Article 86 of the Constitution. Then the third law that governs our elections in this country, Zainab, is the IBC Act. IBC Act, Section 23 of the IBC Act, requires the auditing of all assets that pertains to whether digital or hard assets of IBC that pertains to all our elections, such that these are issues that you cannot just sweep under the table. And if one party in these talks is agitating over interference with Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which is Kenya is established as a multi-party democracy, to the extent that Political Parties Act Section 14E says that when you are elected within one coalition and you want to change your allegiance to that coalition, you have to resign and go to the back to the people to seek a fresh mandate. And here is somebody who belongs to Jubilee, was elected to by Jubilee, is in parliament as a virtue of Jubilee. Jubilee is still a part of the Azimio coalition by law, and then you want to bring that person to again hold bipartisan talks with the people agitating about the same kind of defiance to the Constitution. What are we talking about?
Okay, I'll get you, Senator Sotsi, but Senator Tabitha, so you know, there's certainly that bone of contention. Aidan Kainan, who's still a member of Jubilee Party, but is agitating for, you know, the Kenya Kwanza side. And they're saying, the Azimio is saying, this is a fundamental issue for them because it is one of the issues that they hope addressed in terms of the issue of, you know, loyalty to political parties. That's one of the things I believe that, you know, they hope to be addressed. So they're saying it's a slap in the face by having a member who is their member talking on behalf of the Kenya Kwanza team, yet that's the same issue that they want addressed.
Let me start by saying that, one, Kainan is a leader. And as being a leader, he has freedom of choice into which party he wants to, or which side of the government he wants to be, is comfortable with. Number two, the coalition that Azimio had, I think with the Jubilee, was that after 6 months of election, anybody can settle on whichever side that they want to settle. So he has freedom to be able to choose. And number two,
he's still in Jubilee. He's still in Jubilee,
yes,
which is
but
under Azimio.
In their agreement of their coalition agreement, 6 months after election, it was to lapse. Number two, if I was Azimio in these bipartisan issues, and we have our friend on this other side, they should be actually looking at it like this person should actually be able to understand them. One, because they've walked a journey with them, and if they've come from the same coalition, Kainan is actually supposed to be, you know, they supposed to look at him like the brother on the other side, and is much more better placed for them. But when you look at all these issues that they are having, already we have a 7-7, but Azimio have personal issues, because now they are now diverting the whole discussion to Kainan. Is it Unga or is it Kainan, to be very honest to Kenyans? Looking at also what they put on the issue that they are putting on table, earlier what I was discussing, the ICC issue to the deputy president, these things are now changing. What they are bringing on table now are being
but that was a completely different thing, right?
On personal issues, what they're trying to bring about. As we speak right now, yes, there's a meeting that is supposed to be going on, but in what even we are trying to see, Azimio is already wanting to pull out. They are not, because in their mind and in their interest at heart is not the common interest, it's personal interest. So it is quick, it is very possible for them quickly to move out, because their issues are not common based, but their issues are personal based. Because right now,
but when you talk about the issues of electoral justice, when you talk about the issues of cost of living, that's not personal.
Yes, it's not personal, and that's why I'm saying the issues that they are discussing, that the concerns, like for example, as we are discussing the Kainan concern, this is a personal concern. He's a member of parliament, okay? He represents the people, so he also understands the Unga issues. So if that is what we are sitting on table to discuss, we are all agreeing. We are even welcoming Azimio and say.
So yes, you're saying that's a petty issue.
Very petty.
Okay.
It's not an issue actually to put on table. We are talking that unga is this price. Instead of discussing in terms of further to the bringing these costs down, we are narrowing it down to individual stocks, issues now. When they were demonstrating, they did not lift up and start deviating like Jubilee or this or this. They focused on the unga. That is what they came on table and went out there and started throwing stones in regards to unga. So if these talks are supposed to come on table, right now if they're having a meeting, the first agenda should be the issues of the cost of unga. That is what should be deliberated, so that they go back to their people and say, we have actually discussed and we've decided this is the timeline that we should give the government to be able to bring this cost of unga
down. But how will they be able to get a breakthrough into having these conversations if the terms of reference and some of the issues that are already, you know, born of contention there are not addressed to get into the formal talks on the issues, right? Let's hear from
personal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Senator Osotsi on that.
Zainab, let me start by giving clarity on the issue of Kenya. You know, I hear Kenya Kwanza saying they want a parliamentary process that is strict within the rules of parliament. But Canaan is a member of Jubilee. And even now, in the National Assembly, Canaan is serving in parliamentary committees courtesy of Azimio. That must come out very clearly. He is not serving in those parliamentary committees courtesy of Kenya Kwanza.
So what would you expect him to do?
He has been put in those committees by Honorable Junet Mohammed and Honorable Opio Wandai as a member of Jubilee. So how then would Kenya Kwanza have the powers to place him in this bipartisan committee, and yet they are saying that they want a committee that is strictly parliamentary? If it is strictly parliamentary, then they are going against the standing orders. And that's where the fear is, because we see there is some sabotage. Because when you put there a member of another coalition and you come up with a report, I can tell you that report will be challenged in court of law, because it will not be within the standing orders of parliament. That is where we are saying that if truly you want true bipartisan talks, then play by the games. If you want it truly parliamentary, strictly follow the standing orders. If you want it outside, then we can welcome Kainan to come and represent
the Kenya
them.
Kwanza team indeed has said that their route is what they expect, which is going to be a parliamentary process, right?
Yes.
Right within the precincts of parliament.
So
wait, let me ask you then, make me understand, how is then having Kainan on the other side a breach of the standing orders?
Is a breach of standing orders because the standing orders clearly say that the minority leaders will place their members in committees and the majority leadership will place their members in committees.
But this is this is just talks. This is a different conversation, right?
Remember I said those talks, according to them, they want a strictly parliamentary process. So if it is a strictly parliamentary process, then it must be within the framework of the standing orders. Yeah? So that is the position. So, and again, let me clarify on the issue of the status of Jubilee. This Jubilee is still a member of Azimio, because the coalition agreement says 6 months after election they can exit, but there is exit mechanism. You don't just exit. There is mechanism that you have to give a notice, 90 days notice, and then there is a committee that will deliberate on that and allow you to exit. You can't just say, I have exited. Even now, they are serving in the respective committees as Azimio. Honorable Sabina Chege is serving as the Deputy Minority Whip.
But she has been de-whipped.
In National Assembly, courtesy of Azimio. It's not courtesy of Jubilee.
But you have already
de-whipped Sabina
Chege.
It is not courtesy of Kenya Kwanza. So what we are saying, when you look at all these things, then you begin to see there is a game. And the other day we heard that Honorable Ishunga has drafted a motion on this bipartisan.
Correct.
I mean, it cannot be a bipartisan process when we have one side drafting a motion without the involvement of the other side. These are the things that clearly indicate there is no good faith on the other side. And today's meeting has been instigated by Azimio side, Honorable Otienda Omolo, because in our view is that we wanted an arrangement where we can meet outside, have some background discussion on the issues before us, and then see how it will work. And that is how it's supposed to be. So I want to thank them for the first time that they have appreciated the need to engage outside Parliament. Okay. And that's the best way that Azimio wants the whole thing to be handled. When they insist that when they had their PG in State House, remember they were told, do not accept any other agenda apart from Senator. Yes, they said that.
But was he there?
They said that. It was reported. It was reported in the media houses that they were told to focus on one agenda, which is reconstitution of IBC. But exactly, now, Azimio is bringing cost of living on the table, is bringing electoral justice on the table. And you remember a few minutes ago, my good sister here said that where are Azimio's strategies for discussion? We are saying on the issues of cost of living, we would want to have a discussion. We will want to have a dialogue so that now we can bring our strategies on the table and say, as Azimio, this is how we feel. This matter of cost of living will be addressed. But when you limit us to one issue and you are saying that that is bipartisan, that is not bipartisan. Bipartisan spirit means that you bring your issues, I bring my issues, we discuss, we agree on common ground, and then we begin discussion.
Yes, sir. Something here, Zainab. The reason why we are having the talks is to cure some problems. Okay? And I've said that under our constitution, chapter 2 actually is dedicated to what definition of Kenya. And you know, there used to be a time, Zainab, when in this country we had a dictatorship. You know, we are a progressive nation that reviews its constitution based on bad practices and improving on it so that it can have a quality of life. That is why in chapter 2, Kenya is described as a multi-party democracy. Now, if you try to interfere with that clause of the constitution, then what do? You go back to a dictatorship. And those dictatorial tendencies are some of the issues we want to discuss, are some of the issues that these discussions in the broader issues that have been put on the table, like democracy issues, tend to cure. And the reason why this is important to understand, Zainab, is because when the issue of Canaan comes in place, you remember that after the Ruto regime took power, it went into a spree of actually poaching and buying MPs from the other side of the coalition. That is in the bad faith of that chapter, because if you go and buy ODM MPs, and if you go and buy Jubilee MPs, and try to influence them to go to the side of what we call a majority.
But was it buying members of parliament, or is it enticing them with your ideology or your ideas,
you know,
what you believe?
You know, if you start using terms that if you support us, we will give you this kind of development and stuff, that kind of enticement of goodies coming from State House is tantamount to buying. And the reason why this is extremely important, and if you not lose sight to it as these talks are going, is because the primary oversight authority, the people who have got the donated power directly by the people of Kenya, the sovereign power under chapter 1 of the constitution, is actually Parliament. Parliament should be able to actually keep and hold the executive accountable. If you start having these tendencies where actually the executive can go and poach a member of the other side of the coalition and then forces them to be in their coalition in this kind of talks, then you entirely kill the constitution. I want to give you an example of how this has manifested in these talks, very, very briefly, Zainab. You remember when the Cherera 4 differed with Chebukati and the two other commissioners. The hand of executive comes and punishes the Cherera 4 for having their opinion on the election. Under Article 248 of the Constitution, we established independent commissions which also includes the judiciary. So my question to you today is, Zainab, is
how were they punished? They're the ones who resigned.
That's why no, they were forced to. This entire process was being forced
One of them
in Parliament.
fought it at the tribunal.
But this one we have on media and on record, that there was a lot of pressure from the executive, influence debated in Parliament, to the extent that the other three were forced to resign. They did not resign voluntarily. And even Masit being subjected to go to a tribunal is actually against Article 248, because this is the question I was asking. If today the Supreme Court, which is under Judicial Service Commission, as one of the independent commissions established under Article 248, if today the 7 judges, I've got 3 of them who have given a ruling of a minority, and 4 of them have given a ruling of the majority. Do you go and tell those 3 judges that they have to resign because they have given a minority ruling? You can't, because those are independent institutions established within the premises and the principles of Article 248 of the Constitution. So there was no any reason whatsoever to force the Cherera 4 to resign, because they are protected by the Constitution and Article 248. They
but
are
that's
independent.
Not substantiated. And by the way, when Masit went to the tribunal, what did the tribunal say? That in fact it recommended her removal for what they termed as gross misconduct.
Political,
isn't it? Then the
purely political. Because if today you were to tell judges of the Supreme Court that you two have got a minority report, or you 3 have got a minority report, therefore we are removing you for misconduct, you are violating 248, and that is what we call the invisible hand of the executive in enshrining a dictatorship in the Constitution and in the country, and this must stop.
Okay, Senator Tabitha.
Let me first start by appreciating Azimio in the sense that they actually now appreciate that there is a legal government and the president is in office legally. And that is where we are in this particular discussion, because when the president welcomed them to have these discussions through bipartisan, now we are able to have, we are on flow now on this particular factor, because earlier they had actually disputed, and hence the issues of the IBC, the issues of opening the servers and all that. But as I listened to them today, they are at a point whereby they are embracing that, yes, this is the president, this is the government, and now we are talking to the government. Let me talk about the allegations that are being put across by Azimio in terms of Cherera 4 issues. And as you clearly state, these are Kenyans who willingly resigned, and that was their
well, Senator is saying that there wasn't anything willingly done, but there wasn't pressure.
Those are allegations, Zainab. Those are allegations that they are actually just putting across. The issue of Jubilee members, when my big brother says that the standing orders talk about the minority side, majority side, and the issues of the committee that they have been put, it is not a favor to sit in any committee. In our standing orders in Parliament, both National Assembly and both in Senate, every member of Parliament sits in a committee, depending on which areas they may be averse with, or whichever where you can sit. But there is no member of Parliament who is not sitting, who is outside any committee. We are all serving in all those committees. So it should not sound like it's a favor that Jubilee were given by Azimio leadership to be in those committees. Number 2, the committees that my colleague is talking about, these are the committees within the standing orders. But you see, this is a bipartisan talk, and Kainan is a Kenyan leader like any other leader who has the capability, the competence to be able to sit in these committees and be able to address the common mwananchi issues. But I will understand their concerns if they are worried, if out of their hidden agendas, that the minds of Kainan will be able to sit there and be able to bring on light the things that they don't want them to come about. And that is hence where the worry is. When they also talk about, when I hear them say, what we want, You know, it is so sad in terms of when a leader says what we want. It is about the need. And need is what is important, because it is about how do we provide and ensure that these basic needs are actually provided, or are actually have a plan to be executed, so that we reduce this cost of living out of focusing on the needs. But when we start focusing on the wants, then we actually lose focus. The issues that Azimio are bringing on table, as I clearly stated, they are personal issues. They are focused on individuals. They are not really focused on the bigger picture of
But let me ask, with all these points of contention, that are already there, with yet formal talks to begin, today at least there has been some sort of breakthrough into, you know, having a conversation. But then, is this going to set the tone for what we're going to see? Because if both sides are already taking really hardline stances on what they expect to be done, is this setting the tone for what we expect to see?
Both sides taking hard stance. What happened when this bipartisan
You're taking a stance on saying that, you know, there was already a draft motion by the majority leader in the National Assembly saying, look, we only are going to be restricted into having a conversation on this particular matter, which is the reconstitution of the IBC and that panel. But you have Azimio on the other side saying, look, we have 4 issues that we need addressed. That feels like a deadlock.
No, not a deadlock, because we need to give time to the 14 members of parliament to be able to sit down and be able to...
on those
members? I have faith on both sides. Why? Because I respect all leaders from both, all divide, because they've been chosen by the people, the people that we all serve. So the 7 team in Azimio are competent people. We believe they are going to be able to be on table and be able to deliberate issues, same equal to the Kenya Kwanza team. And these are all equal members of parliament, and we all are qualified, even me, even Eddie, to be able to sit in this. Nobody is lesser, because there is the common agenda. So I believe, when they say that they've initiated these talks, but you see, they're the ones who had the problem. And then we said, come, our brothers, let us sit. And the Azimio were the first to constitute their team. Okay, which is okay. As we had to undergo a process, because we believe in inclusivity of everybody, we had to do our PG. We had to agree, because this is a bilateral parliament. We have members of the National Assembly, we have members of the Senate. We were able to sit, we were able to agree. They had time to be, you know, to sit and get to understand what is our role, what we are supposed to do. That is what has taken time. Today I'm happy, because as we sit, we should stop whining and complain, because they are now going to sit. I think it's actually by 11 a.m. if I'm not wrong, but at the end of the day, it is today from 9:30 onwards. They are going to be able to sit. They've sat with their leaders on both sides, both majority and both minority. They've been able to discuss issues, because these are the same leaders who have actually been able to assist in putting up this committee. And so as we speak, as Kenyans, these leaders, this 14 committee is sitting today. We should give them time as leaders.
So why do you have problems and then
we have worries? Why is Azimio always so worried on everything that they are also bringing about? On issue A, there's you know, issues are cutting across. And kindly, Azimio desist from these server issues. William Ruto does not have his server in State House. Gachagua does not have server carrying in his house. People decided the matter.
Don't you find the merit in asking for the opening of these servers to be able to resolve and address the root, you know, of where they feel the issues are?
Which issues are we talking? If they are now recognized that this is the government, then they should be genuinely moving away from concentrating on server issues, because is server going to put unga on table?
Yes.
Is it going to change the cost of living?
Yes.
The server, to be very honest. Yes. Servers are their own personal interest, trying to start confusing wananchi and starting to say this is how things
hold on to that.
Is wrong.
Okay, I know, Senator Sotsi, we have to take a break, but I just want to
take a break. Can I just clarify a few things?
We have to. But when you come back, I just want you to not lose your trail of thoughts, because we're going to respond to those issues. Let's take a very quick break here on M Live. We're going to be back in a short while. Stay with us.
your paper this week. Samia takes on graft cartels. The Tanzania president turns the spotlight on corrupt state officials to salvage her legacy from scandals. Rwanda migrant deal to now cover non-asylum seekers. Plus our opinion leaders. Charcoal and water wars are here thanks to rising consciousness among rural folks. Charles Onyango Obo, Guide to Good Governance. First, do harm, the rest will follow. Generali Ulimwengu. Needed. Full, not piecemeal reforms for Kenya Police. Tingugi. Magazine. Amid turmoil in Congo, IDPs in Goma still sit for a hot meal. For this and more stories, get your copy of the East African.
My name is Kelvin Kiptum Chiria, the third fastest marathon of all time. I will be running in this year's London Marathon on the 23rd of April. Watch me live on NTV.
The London Marathon, 23rd April, live on NTV.
We partner with communities across all 47 counties by advancing education, by enhancing healthcare, by supporting economic opportunities. Because when we unite, there's nothing we can't do.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching AM Live on NTV as we canvas around some of the issues on the bipartisan talks expected to take place. Of course, today more of what they termed as familiarization of the 14-member committee between the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio team on those talks. And a number of issues have come up. Senator Osotsi, I know you had a number of things that you need to respond from what remarks have been made by Senator Tabitha. So I'll give you that opportunity.
My good sister said a number of things, but let me try and clarify one or two issues because I've been there for a while. What is going to happen eventually after the two teams have agreed to move on, we are going to have a motion on the formation of the joint ad hoc committee, and that motion will most likely specify the terms of reference. And the standing orders are very clear on the formation of the joint ad hoc committee on the issue of membership. When you talk about membership, it means affiliation to political parties. On the issue of a representation from National Assembly and the Senate. And that is where I see a problem with the inclusion of Honorable Kainan, that that motion is likely to be challenged in court if it passes, because of having a member who legally belongs to another parliamentary party now being chosen by these other parliamentary parties to represent them. That is a legal issue. The second issue is I think Kenya Kwanza must really demonstrate good faith. Apart from the issue of Kainan, we have not seen them even appoint a co-chair. We still see...
no, I think they did, if I'm not wrong.
We still see Honorable Ichungwa, who is not even a member of the committee, controlling things, deciding the venues for meeting, deciding who will attend and what agenda. So they need to be very clear that if you are not a member of the committee, you are not really supposed to be talking about the committee, to be directing things or what is going to be done. I think that clarity is required from the end. They need to allow their co-chairs to do his work. The way Azimio, we have a co-chair in Otiende Amolo, who is doing things, and in fact this meeting has been convened by Honorable Otiende Amolo. So that way then we'll begin to make progress. The second issue she has raised is the issue that Azimio is pushing for self-interest. There can never be self-interest on matters affecting people, like cost of living. And I wish Kenya Kwanza would take the debate on cost of living seriously, because they need help. Clearly they need help. You know, they have been fumbling here and there on the issue of cost of living. If you look at the measures they are put in place to address the issue of cost of living, clearly there are problems. You are talking about the issue of government-to-government deal on importation of petroleum product from Saudi Arabia. Clearly, as a parliamentarian, I get concerned how that deal was executed. Because if it is a loan arrangement, where was the involvement of Parliament in approval of that loan? 2, where is the full disclosure about this? Which oil companies are going to be involved? Those are issues that we need to know. So when you look at the issue of reduction of the price of unga, you are talking about the Zambia issue, you are talking about importation of maize meal, you are talking about the involvement of the Kenya National Trading Corporation, where we are told there are even issues around procurement process, how the tenders were awarded, who was awarded, at what price. Then you talk about the issues of fertilizer, because they said that one way of fighting cost of living is to subsidize fertilizer, subsidize production. But this fertilizer, again, there are issues around it. You know, even the National Assembly is investigating the procurement of fertilizer. Distribution of this fertilizer is another challenge that they are facing. My own county, as we speak now, there is no fertilizer being distributed on the ground. So all these issues, clearly, they need a conversation. They need ideas from our end. And they cannot just say, oh, this one, leave it out. Let us discuss about this. When we talk about opening...
So limiting the conversation to just one issue, do you feel that that's unfair?
That's very unfair. Because Azimio is raising issues which require national conversation. When we talk about the issues of opening servers, in fact, it should not be an issue, because the Access to Information Act and even the Constitution allows any Kenyan to get the information that he needs. But now what is happening? They have become IEBC, they have become defenders of IEBC. Whenever you raise any issue on IEBC, they come out and become advocates of IEBC. So we are saying that opening of servers, if at all you won the election, what is the problem in opening the servers? Open the servers. Open the servers. That's what we need. And my good sisters talked about recognition of Kenya Kwanza government. By engaging in bipartisan talk, it doesn't mean that we are recognizing them. In fact, for us, is an opportunity to determine the question of legitimacy. Because once you open the servers, then we'll be able to address the problem of legitimacy. If they won fairly, Azimio will say, yes, we have seen the server.
So you're saying right now Azimio still does not recognize President William Ruto?
Yeah, clear. We have said that.
As a legitimate
we have said that so many times.
The past election and the leader of the government?
We had our PG, and that was the resolution of the PG. That we have a problem with the 2022 election, and until servers are opened, we still have a question of legitimacy.
Will opening the servers change the outcome?
Well, the opening of the servers will tell us the truth.
But
will tell us the truth.
There is something I want to add on this issue of opening the server. You know, we leaders must know that we are building a country, and we are living on a borrowed space and time. such that the things that we are doing here should be for the betterment of the future generation. The opening of the server conversation is not a conversation that only stops at ensuring that people are clear at the past election, but it should be a standard practice. And it's not a standard practice that we are only requiring as Azimio, but it is a constitutional requirement that after every election is done, there has to be a forensic audit of the server, so that we do not have this kind of problems recurring, whereby an election ends, Zainab, and then people have got this contention. And that is why I was saying that if you look at Article 86 of the Constitution, subsection C and D, they are very clear about what openness entail in terms of election and what transparency entails in terms of the election. And that is what necessitated the creation of the IBC Act, as well as the Election Act of 2011, which I've told you that Section 44, A and B, requires for that forensic audit of the server to be done, so that there is always very, very clear issues around the election. Because that is the only way you can be able to ascertain the issue of election. Now, the reason why there's mischief is because even in standard practice in the private sector, there is no company that audits itself. You saw the mischief by IBC before Chebukati left, but when Chebukati put some kind of charade process whereby the IBC, in seeking to comply with this kind of clauses, went and did some internal audit by themselves, did some report, and then presented it to Ruto before they left office, saying that they have done an audit. You see, those kind of mischievous acts that we see, where somebody wants to audit themselves and then clear themselves of a mess, becomes very problematic. So it's extremely critical that the issue of opening of servers does not only stop at the issue of confirming and ascertaining the 2022 election, but also becomes a standard practice, such that future generations, starting from 2027, we must be able to have a point whereby election issues can be put to rest.
But let me ask
you,
when this matter
is a forensic audit.
But let me ask you, when this matter was settled at the Supreme Court, which is at the apex of the third arm of the government, yes, isn't this telling that maybe
remember in the Supreme Court, and this one is in the public domain, it is on record both in media and on the houses of parliament. In Supreme Court, the issue of the servers did surface, and when it surfaced, the Azimio coalition requested that the Supreme Court gives an order for the opening of the server. The people who were hired by our nation, IBC, Smartmatic, right, wrote a letter that they cannot open the server entirely because it actually violates their own property rights, to the extent that other data that they hold of other clients that they have within their own contracts.
Actually, I have that letter. Allow me to read it, right?
Yes, yes.
So it says that, as per your request regarding the provision of images of NTC servers, we'd like to clarify that such images contain software owned and copyrighted by Smartmatic and is thus IP protected, right? Providing full access would infringe on their, Smartmatic, intellectual property rights, which they enjoy as a company, right?
Yes, yes.
They say, committed as we are to transparency and integrity of Kenyan elections, we would like to recommend that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission makes available the following information, which are two things.
Yes.
All collected data related to the results transmission system and all results transmission system logs. Now, this information, they say, should be sufficient to extensively audit the results transmission system and to verify that it worked properly. Also, all physical tally reports were available online in real time since election night, so all political parties as certified NGO election observers had access to those tallies.
Now, do you see why that's problematic, Zainab?
How is that problematic? Because they're saying they're protecting their intellectual rights, but they've provided the data that was necessary to be scrutinized.
It's extremely problematic because of this reason, as I finish. You know, we have got what we call sovereignty power of the people. That kind of response brings to the table, this is why this actually makes it very perfect for the talk, and that letter should actually be referred for the talk, because then the question that then comes is this: as a people, where is our data sovereignty? Because if somebody limits you to, you have bought an entire system, you have procured an entire system under IBC Act Section 23, such that the entire asset, you are supposed to have the entire asset register to the extent that something like an IBC server should be able to give you things like what are the modules of that system, so that you can have an audit trail of the entire module, and then somebody is limiting you to only being able to access the data in
which is at the bone of contention, right?
No, the entire system must be audited, because if you cannot be able to see the metadata of a system, then how do you verify that this data is valid?
I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate, but I'm still wondering, wouldn't this then compromise what they're saying is, you know, their company's structures, which also manages elections in different parts of the world?
It doesn't.
Okay, yeah, let me hear from Tabitha, the new senator.
And yes. You see, today, as you can see, we have two Azimio members, I being the Kenya Kwanza, but not a challenge. We are in government,
that's fine.
And we are strong, and we are
our member of parliament from Bere North was still on his way.
It's okay, it's okay, and we are really focused. As you can see,
the responsibility of government.
This discussion is much more. They are trying to focus on server issues. And as I clearly stated earlier, even the discussion of Unga is too minimal. What is really coming in broad daylight is the discussion of the server. They should petition IEBC. The government is not the custodian of the electoral materials, it is IEBC. The same Azimio team are actually stalling the processes because there's no commission in place, and there's a process of putting a new commission in place. They have come out complaining on the process of putting these new commissioners. So yet we are telling them this is the same office that they should be able to go and petition them to be able to open those servers. But as I said, the president in State House has no server in his house that is going tomorrow and be able to open. So their focuses on this server is behind us. This is something that they went to court. Let me tell you, they were not even prepared when we went to Bomas of Kenya, when they were given an opportunity by Chebukati to verify and to be, because I personally sat in Bomas. We were given an opportunity to verify each and every document with both sides, all presidential aspirants. They were not prepared. This caught them by surprise because they were having deep state, and that is what they were so comfortable on, thinking that being on the side of the government, that was by then Jubilee, things will just move very smoothly. They are now here on this table, broadly complaining about Jubilee issues and talking about buying MPs. MPs are not bought. These are members of parliament. You just don't buy members of parliament the way they want to insinuate.
But that's not the first time we've had
you
that.
actually sell your ideologies, your ideas, and that is what attracts. And you see, today they are trying to complain, and they are so worried about how Jubilee now is appreciating Kenya Kwanza, and they have now come to light to understand the manifesto.
But there are certainly divisions within Jubilee which has been settled by the court, and they have, I believe, reinstated Jeremiah Kioni still as the Secretary General, Murathe as the chairperson. So that means then, you know, the Iala Member of Parliament, Kanini Kega, still hold a different view and a faction within Jubilee, but legitimately speaking and according to the law, Jubilee Party under the leadership of these two still sits under Azimio, right?
Even if that is the case, and we respect the court rulings, but it is also wise and prudent to actually accept that it is in their freedom to be attracted to the manifesto that us as Kenya Kwanza we are actually offering. When Raila and Uhuru became one formation, we said it was okay, and William Ruto moved on with his manifesto, and today he is here as the president, and we did not complain. We formed UDA, and we actually opened up and affiliated with the other different parties that joined us, and we moved on. Now today they are worried because Jubilee members who used to be, of course, in the same affiliation by then with William Ruto, now I've seen the broad daylight, and they're now getting worried because now we are having these members. And number two, as they stated earlier about Ichungwa being part of this bipartisan. But we accept that Ichung'wa is the majority leader, a National Assembly, and there's no wrong with him.
So there's nothing, there's no issue.
There's no issue.
Although he is a majority leader, we saw communication from him yesterday with regards to a venue that this has to take place, right? Which was, I think, in Parliament at that point, asking for a space within Parliament. But he is not part of the 14-member committee.
He is not part, but he is a majority leader. There is no problem. Actually, they should be appreciating that they have members who are concerned, leaders who are concerned to ensure that this talks takes place. And when you clearly state that he was trying to organize
a majority leader who fronts
no
government business in Parliament, right?
Yes, he does.
Then isn't he taking advantage of the position he holds in
He's taking leadership. He is a leader. He's ensuring that his people on the government side have a place. They've put everything in order. He's just offering leadership. And what is the problem? A leader offering leadership. Zainab, give me time, because as you can see, I'm
yes, because we're also running out of time.
And I want to state what my brother Sosi had mentioned about the issue of the oil. We know that the oil issue is also being brought about by the dollar issue, and this is what is also bringing the cost of living to be very high. So when these strategies are accepted by Azimio, because I accept them to come in and support even this oil strategy. One, it's going to be loaned for 6 months. At least now we are going to be able to, with our budgets, be able to focus on the cost of living, because we have the oil on credit. The dollar issue, as we stated, we are now going to be able to pay with Kenya shillings. These are ways, these are focuses that Azimio should come and be able to understand and support Kenya Kwanza, so as to focus on ensuring that the cost of living is going to go down. But on everything that the government is trying to do, except anything that is personal to them, then that brings debate that is an okay discussion. But anything that is not really touching on them personally, then it's like it is adding no particular value. The issue of Zambia maize, the case that is from National Assembly investigating the fertilizer. The CS categorically, Medeka Linturi, stated and said, there's no problem, come, I'll be able to show you how we were able to do all these purchases. Then where are we? We are at a place whereby they do not want any progress, because this fertilizer today is what the government has put in place. We have rains, thank God, and the focus should be on how our farmers should be encouraged to do more farming. But we are always trying to take the government back, but now try to question how did this happen. But we are saying, as government, the CS has clearly stated, come to table, come to my office. I'll be able, to showcase that what you are actually asking. And the strategies that he has. And let me state, there's a consignment that is coming for rice, for oil, and this will be able to be distributed, and this other cost will be able to go down.
We'll certainly wait to see how that goes. Senator Osotsi, as you wind up, also today, I know that you and Senator Okech will be heading to Murang'a County, but there is going to be some showdown, because the county police commander said that he was not in fact, the letter that was sent by the Azimio team was quite late, which means that things will be a bit difficult. He said that he cancelled the meeting as he was notified too late, and that the police officers would actually be deployed somewhere else. But the Azimio team insists that this meeting is still going to happen. Then what do we expect to see today?
Zainab, allow me to clarify a few issues before I respond to that.
Right.
Particularly on the issue of the server. You know, Zainab, apart from being an active politician, I'm a practicing IT expert, and I was part of the team that did the server audit after the 2017 election, and I even represented NASA as one of the witnesses in the Supreme Court case. And in 2017 things were different, because we were allowed to do an audit of the server. And when we did the audit of the server, we found out that there were technical faults in the results transmission system. And that is what largely informed the judges to actually declare the elections null and void. This time around, things were different. We were not allowed to do the server audit. That letter explains itself. But I want to say, as a practicing IT expert, nothing stops Kenyans from accessing or getting the information in the servers. If you look at the laws that we have, the Access to Information Act clearly stipulates that intellectual property cannot limit the right to access data. It cannot limit the right to access data. You cannot say that you cannot access this data because of intellectual property right. Number two, if you look at Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act, which I participated very actively in its formulation in the National Assembly, it doesn't limit access to data on matters of national interest, because the interest to access server, it is a matter of national interest. So if it is a matter of national interest, nothing overrides that interest.
Even if it overrides the interest of a company that says there would be an infringement of their own systems because they are handling other elections around the world.
Yeah, you see, when we talk about national interest, we are talking about a grave matter that if left on its own, it can do a harm to the country. So the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act is very clear. Even the Data Protection Act, issues of intellectual property do not limit need to access data where national interest is involved. So I think when they talk about all these things, they must be alive to the fact that we have very well-schooled and experienced IT people on the Azimio side who understand these things. And by the way, I want to agree with the Honorable Ketch that this should be the need to audit systems should be part of the processes of IBC. It is a best practice in every country that electoral management agency has to audit an election and give a report.
So what we should have had
to the public,
a different
so we shouldn't
outsourced another institution, perhaps, or company to have audited the election. But they are the ones who understood everything.
Yes,
right?
The auditing must be done by an independent body.
Yes.
And when you say that you cannot access the server because of intellectual property, let me ask you, but in this nation media group, you have IT systems. I have known Nation conducts IT audits. You bring in an independent company to come and do an audit of your system. Nowhere will you hear about the infringement of intellectual property rights. Then there will be no audit at all. Okay. Banks carry out audit, insurance companies carry out audits, IT audits. That should not be an excuse by IBC that there should not be any audit.
I think
now,
that's
coming to the Muranga issue.
Right, very quickly, because we're also running out of time. So
coming from the Muranga issue.
Yeah, just 1 minute, please.
I think this is ridiculous, coming from Kenya Kwanza government. The police cannot cancel a meeting. They have no powers to cancel a meeting. They only are required to be notified and that we will have a meeting at this point.
To provide security, right?
They don't have to be provided. In fact, as Azimio, we don't need their security. We can protect ourselves. If they are taking their security elsewhere, let them take it elsewhere. We can protect ourselves. But they cannot tell us they have cancelled our meeting. Because the Constitution is very clear. We have the right to assemble. We have the right to free movement, and we have a right to free speech and association. So it is ridiculous, and this is how it started with the demonstration. You remember they said they have cancelled our demonstrations.
So it started like that. So you're saying
then when we said
so, but this isn't a demonstration. What is this, an engagement?
It is a meeting. It's just a town hall meeting.
But Zainab, how does
no. Wait a minute.
He puts that's how it started when they were told not to, to demonstrate in Nairobi.
You know, Senator Mutinda, my good sister, you had your time. Now allow me to execute my points.
Proceed.
You know, this is what they did to demonstration. We said we want to have peaceful demonstration, and they said that we have cancelled your demonstration.
All right.
And we said, no, this is our right in the constitution. We'll proceed and have our demonstration. Then they came in, blocked all the roads.
All right. I remember everything that happened.
Innocent Kenyans walking to work. They started beating up people. Now they want to do the same thing because they don't want us to have a conversation with our people.
So, but there's the issue of the law, right?
People of Mount Kenya have issues that they want to raise with Azimio.
Okay, let's hear from Senator Okech. Let's hear from Okech as we wind up. Just 30 seconds.
As I wind up, I just want to tell you, as Azimio, we have decided to ignore that police directive.
So you will go there.
And the meeting will go on.
Okay.
And it will be very peaceful and successful.
What's the agenda, Senator Okech? Very quickly.
Consultative meetings to discuss matters of national interest by the people, is actually very well protected, dedicated to Chapter 4 of the Constitution in terms of all the rights. And this particular right is under Article 35 of the Constitution. The Police Commission has got very clear functions in the Constitution under Article 244. And that article says that they must comply with constitutional standards and human rights and freedoms guaranteed in the Constitution. So this is not a point of debate. We cannot go back to the Moi eras. And this is why we're saying that we are very quickly degenerating to a dictatorship that actually uses, weaponizes police against the people. So this is
not counter to what is happening at, was it Sarova Pan-Africa, that meeting?
It's not counter. This is a consultative meeting. Okay. I mean, let me ask you, do the talks that are going on in Pan-Africa have stopped the regime, which is being contested by Azimio, from doing their things? Has it stopped Rigathi Gachagua from doing his things from an office that is contested?
All right.
Has it stopped Dr. Ruto from doing his things from the office that is contested?
Okay.
If you're stopping Azimio from doing its consultative meetings and doing its political organization and conversations, then we should mute everything else in this other side. That's when it is equal. But so as I finish,
we actually
very briefly as I finish,
right.
I want to say this on the issues of high cost of living. If every formula you put on the table doesn't work for you, to the extent that even simple things as what you talk about, dollarization of the oil market and then changing it to shillings, only leads to skyrocketing prices of basic commodities, including salt the other day, as increased. Accept there is a problem, and then don't be a broken clock, because a broken clock is always right twice a day. Why am I saying this as I finish?
You always finish.
Zainab, for this obsession with this regime that because we are subsidizing fertilizer, then everything's going to be right. Not everybody in this country's economic arrangement is focused on producing maize and unga. There are people in the north who are pastoralists, and people eat meat in this country. There is 1.5 million border borders who are participating in the service and the production economy, who use oil. There are people in Nyanza who are in the lake today, always fishing, using oil as a means of production. So you cannot talk about one size of production fits everything.
I have to cut
Let us agree
to
actually make this economy work with what is working for Kenyans.
Thank you. Senator Tabitha.
Yes,
we actually do not have time completely.
Yes. I just want to say the issue in Murang'a, you can see Azimio is always forceful. They were supposed to notify the commander within 4 days. They did it within 2 days. I believe they can change the date and do it on another different day by following all said. Let them give the bipartisan time to be able to execute the communication, the talks. Let us deliberate in terms of what they've been able to discuss. Let them give the leaders that we have appointed from both sides to be able to undertake the discussion.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Tabitha Mutinda, nominated Senator Godfrey Osotsi, Senator Vihiga. I know you wanted to add something. My director is literally throwing me out of the studio. Eddie Okech, Senator Migori County, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, we were still waiting for Geoffrey Kiringa, Mbeere North Member of Parliament. Well, probably we'll meet him downstairs. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming in this morning. That was that conversation as we take a look at the latest developments from the bipartisan talks that we expect this morning. My name is Zainab Ismail. Your world is coming up shortly with Winnie Lubembe. Good morning. Good day.